Hey everybody, how's it going? It's me, David. I'm sans Greg this evening, but that's okay. That is okay. So how is everybody doing? So I did just do a movie or a video here on Marlin, and just gonna download and just really quickly compare the bug fix, so 2.08, and with the actual 2.08, just to see kind of how those config builds stacked up against each other. I mean, obviously the stuff that I've changed is going to be changed still. Now you might hear my phone in the background briefly. I'm just checking the levels on the old mic. So yeah, if you're kicking around in the chat and stuff, let me know if the mic is okay or is too quiet. I think we're getting pretty close. I think we're pretty good. Anyway, hope you guys are good. So let's just bounce over and go to the screen share, and let's get things rolling. All right, so I'm just going to grab the 2.8 build right from Marlin here. So let's just save that. Download folder. So again, if you don't know where I just went, it's marlinfirmware.org, fw.org, and you just grab the download there. But I'm going to also download an earlier copy of my 2.8 turbo. So this is the E3 turbo firmware you guys would have seen in the E3 turbo video. Wow, that was a hard sentence for me to do. So I'm just going to hit pause because I think the audio is okay. I'll watch it back after now, but yeah, now we can be sans double talk. So we're just gonna fire download anyway because it's a big file and it's a zip, and they're like, oh goodness, I don't know if we should trust this. So let's do some magic here. So they both downloaded. Let's switch here, and we're just gonna grab them and move them into a folder basically, so we can compare. Now, if you guys haven't checked it out, there's a video uploaded on our channel about Marlin 2.0.8. So yeah, this is the follow-up video. So let's go into and just so we're gonna make a working folder basically for our downloads that we just got. Now remember, we just did the firmware, so we don't have like the example configs or anything like that. This is just straight, just saw me do it. We downloaded Marlin, and I downloaded the working config from the Ender that we had. So let's bounce it back here. Let's go boom. And here we are. So first things first is we will extract them. Now, it's important to note how Marlin actually extracts. So you can see it's coming in, and then it actually comes into a Marlin 2.0.x folder, and that's just base Marlin. If I go into my bug fix, you can see here this one is labeled bug fix, so I'm not going to lose them. But if you are extracting them for yourself, make sure that you are mindful of the folder names as you're going along. So again, I'm just I want to see what the difference between or how many lines have changed between the bug fix 2.0.8 and 2.0.8, because they're pretty close. So we will find out. Now, it's a good practice, and just to note, if you do want the example configs, they aren't included in Marlin anymore, and they haven't been since like 2.0.2, I think, but that would be this one. So to download Marlin, you pick this one, and then to download the actual examples, so if you were working on your Ender or what have you, you would definitely go here, and then you can grab those downloads. So let's see here. I see flashing, which means yay, we're extracted. So let's just grab, and I'm going to save us some time. Now we know for a fact that in my config, so in the non-Marlin config, I guess the non-bug fix config, I've changed the pins file, so I'm not going to look at the pin file, but we're going to look at config H and config advanced H and just see kind of what the difference is. So it's there. So I've just popped these two configs from the E3 Turbo just into this root folder. And then what I'm going to do actually is let's start with config, and we're going to open with code. So if you guys didn't know, and we've gone through the install for VS Code for a few videos back now, but the installer for VS Code actually gives you an option to have that added to your start menu. So it's a good little trick to have. So open with code, and that will open VS Code in whichever window happens to be primary. So there's my VS Code. I'm going to open the little file explorer because here I can see like, you know, what I've got open. I've got configuration H open, which is great. So let's just do a really quick check. This is not the most accurate way, but we have 2620 lines. So let's go into our Marlin folder. So this is not bug fix because it does say Marlin. And just out of curiosity, let's pop that one up there. And then, so this one here is the one that I made, and this is the one that's actually in Marlin. And let's just see. Like I said, this is the most accurate way. So it's definitely bigger. The actual release for 2.0.8 has definitely grown for like 100 lines more. So let's get to the actual fun. I'm just going to close these, and then right here we're going to go open folder, and we can just open this working folder. And what that will do is open a new VS Code window, and then you can see here that I have like the zips are showing, and then here's the two that I drag out. And then if we open and go into Marlin, what I want to do is compare. So I'm going to click this configuration.h and click the other one. So this is the one that I did, and then I can actually compare selected. And so here it's brought it up side by side, and you can see here anything in the red is where it's different. So if we look up here, it gives us a hint on which is which. So the one on the left is the actual factual Marlin config, and then the one on the right is the edited version that I have. But you can see here some similarities and some dissimilarities already. So the config version didn't change. It's not highlighted. Since this was from the E3 Turbo, it has that enter E3 Turbo from the config example, and we use those all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you can see here that the reason we get a little bit longer is the preamble has changed in the getting started section too, right? So everything in red is different. Now, red could be different because it's one word, and you can see like this, the word useful is highlighted here, and it is not over here. So it's saying that the word useful is different, and you can actually like right click and change all the occurrences if you want. We're not changing, we're just observing. We're observers. So right now I would call that section big whoop, nothing's changed. So you can see in the actual one, they actually added delta, ascara, and tapara. Whoa. Right here it's just delta. So they've combined the section headers in the new version of Marlin. So yeah, that changed. And then I didn't write it, so that line changed. And to be clear, one never writes Marlin unless you are the developers of Marlin, right? But you put your name in here because you're the one that configured it after the fact. Lots of stuff's the same. This is all the same, even though there's no changes there. The default config has a higher baud rate, and a lot of if you're using TFT touchscreens or other interfaces to the controller that are, shall we say, not stock, 1150-200 is the standard or one of the safer speeds of baud rate to use, just because it'll allow communication between the board and the peripheral. So yeah, board changed. I changed the name from 3D printer to Sleepy. Yeah. Oh, and here's some stuff. So when we look at this section here, one of the changelog things was the SMUF, and it's in here. They just kind of changed the word because, again, this was bug fix 2.8, so everything was in there. If we go down a bit more, let's check out, see what else is different. So we have an auto power cooler fan that was not present in the bug fix. At least the version I had, it was a few weeks old, but not that old. So we have a auto cooler fan. That's neat. It's cool. We have auto power cooler temperature. So again, you'll always usually mate those, so you'll see one then the other. It just tells it when to actually auto cool. So that's a little different. Oh, hey, Gary. Yeah, I know, right? It's an impromptu after stream, very quick coding hour. I just wanted to see exactly what the changes were. So here we are. But good to see you, Gary. It is a short one, so don't be shocked if I bounce out quicker than we usually do either. But it's just me too. Greg's not here. Go figure, right? Let's see, your temp bed sensor, that's just different because I defined it. So again, nothing's changed there. Big change here, folks. There's a space in the new config file. So they have a leading space there instead of having it left justified, it's right justified. That's one of the wonderful things about C++ is you can actually get away with a little bit of space forgiveness. So let's see what we got here. It looks like we've added a whole chamber section in, which that, in all fairness, could have been there and I took it out. I can't remember. This section is all different again just because of spacing, because you can see, and it's a really handy editor feature for sure, that we have the leading spaces and you can see them because it tells you this word changed. This isn't where it was over there. And it might not be a big deal in Marlin, but when you're actually working in code and while developing Marlin, they would definitely use this because it would help them out. Chamber, again, support is in there. And if you remember my bug fix, I actually hacked chamber support in. So if you haven't seen the E3 Turbo video, we use the chamber thermistor and onboard thermistor is the chamber thermistor to turn the fan on and off. And again, they've added something similar. This is an interesting section here, and it's for overshoot. And this one here, you can see it's not listed in the older one. And the overshoot's actually a really handy thing if you're going high temp, because if you're going 300 and then your hot end is going at warm up, it's hitting 320, 330, and then coming down, you know that you should be PID tuning it, and that's a great way to make sure that you're heating elements. So the heater cartridge, bed heater, any of those things are cared for properly. So if you do run into issues PID tuning, you might have to play with these just a smidge. For example, if you tried to PID a Predator, the fan cooling actually makes it almost impossible unless you change those ducts, and you will overshoot and undershoot, and it'll kick this and fail. So that's new, exciting. We don't really need to worry about the PID parameters because I changed those to match what I had. Again, it's the same. I've just undefined it, so that's not new. They've added definitions into the other one. So again, all these little addition of comments And so the comments or anything with the / in front, it's commented or edited out, so it's not going to actually work. So if you need something to work, you got to get rid of those slashes for one. But we can see as we're going through here too that all those comments are probably the reason that we're like roughly 120 lines different between the two files. And like this whole section right here, you can see this is missing. So in the example config for the E3 Turbo that we were using, they actually just probably took it out because they don't have a chamber. So I would imagine that that was in bug fix and not different. So we can see it there. Again, this isn't anything different. Now, one thing I like to do is actually set my max extrude length a little higher. No, 300 or 600 on Ender 3 is probably too much. But if you ever use your extruder motor to push that filament through, so if you're trying to push through filament that you want to change or take out, and you don't use the controller like an Octoprint and you're just using the wheel, you can actually run into a problem where it doesn't reset the extrude length. And that can be very cumbersome. So if you set it a bit higher than you want, 600 isn't bad. You might lose a little filament there, but then on a CR10 or bigger, you're actually getting the filament all the way down to the hot end, opposed to 200 and you're only halfway down the Bowden tube. So that's my logic for that, but it hasn't changed. It's still there. This is kind of cool. Thermal protection cooler. Now, this is for specifically laser, and they mentioned this in the new build as well, but they've added a few features in for lasers and burning, and you can actually cool your laser, which is sweet. And I imagine you could hack it to do cooling for CNC and aluminum milling and stuff like that. But none of this has changed. None of that looks changed. In fact, the number of steppers is the same. The only thing that's different, again, is I use 2209s. Default is not. And then the steps per axis, obviously this is stuff that I've pulled out of my config. So some's the same, some's different. M503 if you need it. Again, or right here, M92. So if you don't want to see all of your settings, you can just issue M92 and then you will just see your steps per axis. Or if you want to see your feed rate, you can do M203. And feed rate's actually an interesting one. I'll talk about it a bit in an upcoming video, but extruders specifically, we don't really think about them when we set print speed. And I think that's super interesting, and I can't believe nobody's covered it, so we're going to cover it. I haven't seen anything about it. So acceleration's there. This is all there. It's just different values. So the stuff with different values, I'm not too worried about. It's the stuff where we see those like gaps, because see, I'm using C for homing. They're not. And I'm actually using the inductive probe on this board, and that's why it's not using the end stop pin, which is a hack. And I think I showed that in the video. If I didn't, audio issue. There we go. I'm back. Sorry about that, folk. BL touch, all that's there, but different. And see, we can quickly see, and this is nice. I can quickly tell, like, this line exists on both sides because it's light or red. And I don't really need to stop there, which is perfect for my purposes right now. I just want to see what's different. So really, the biggest difference was the chamber stuff right now. The laser, Z idle height. If Z set Z idle height, if the Z axis is on its own. Oh, okay, yeah. So if you want to set how high your Z actually is when either there is no power to the steppers or after home, you can come in and do it here. And you can see that the section did exist before, but they just added a little bit better of a comment and preamble to it. So let's see here. Again, the bed's going to be different size. Of course it is. Matte define watch all runout sensors. Executes a runout script triggering a sensor, an extruder. So that one is different. They've added that feature. Now, I go through it in the video that's actually uploading right now. If you want to find out what that actually does beyond this comment, there's an easy way to do it. So, and this is really, I think, a feature for like the MMU or SMUF. Commands to execute filament runout. So they've changed the preamble there, M600. They actually have done a few changes in the M600 region too. So that's neat. If any bash meddling. Okay, so they've added just sanity. Sanity checks is the wrong thing. It's a logic gate. It's an if statement, which means they're just making sure that something exists. See here. Mesh. This one is different. So G26. So G26, if you're using a G26, which is the mesh validation, if you're using it, they have added a line to control the feed rate for travel. You can make it go faster or slower. Hooray. I always use more points than less points. I've paid for the probe, so why don't I use more grid points? So on an Ender, I use 5, and on the bigger printers, I'm up at 9 or 11, which works out in my favor, I think. Define, extrapolate beyond grid. This is an interesting option, and what it does is it uses math to actually judge which way the bed was going between the 2 points to give you a better estimation of a grid. I would definitely use it if you got the space. Use that for sure. Use it for sure. UBL. So this is another new feature. I didn't actually get talking about it in the video, but I did talk about how to find it. So Hilbert curve uses less travel when you're UBL. So when you're using like bilinear, that's when it just goes in rows and then it switches up and back and forth. Whereas the UBL is the one that'll just kind of pick spots on the bed. I quite like both, but generally I stick with bilinear, so that's good. Lots of probe stuff, but nothing's different. It's all there. Let's do a quick EEPROM settings. Again, I changed mine. You usually want to disable M503, and in fact people don't leverage M504 enough, so I find that as well. M504 is in the EEPROM settings window there, and again, I changed my heat for my material based on what I'm using, so that's why that's different. I use nozzle park because I have advanced BAWs. Let's see here. So here's define print counter. If print counter is enabled, print save interval every 16. So it lets you actually set now the save interval, which is cool. Gives you a little more control. Clearly they've added languages. I believe they've added Swedish, if I'm correct, and if I'm remembering. This is all the same. Ooh, another display. They added a display. Let's see here. Again, another controller, the K3D full graphic. So it keeps getting more robust in what it can support. This is just because I'm using it, so it's defined on mine. Man, this looks like it's going to be a sweet firmware to switch. It's going to be nice and quick. Nothing too bad. FSEC, however you say that. And they've added support for that. And then, yeah, they've added more support for DGUS LCD. And then DWIN actually has more support as well. And then they got the Nexton 2.8. Yeah, they've just got they're adding screens and boards and everything like that. If we were to look at the boards config, it would probably blow my mind because they've added a bunch. So there you have it. We made it to the end of the config file. I'm not even going to jump into the advanced. Looking at this, I can already kind of feel out that there's going to be about the same amount of changes to match these base set features in the advanced feature set. So let's do this. And all right, well, if you're here, thank you for coming. I appreciate you coming and showing up for this very, very impromptu test, basically for tomorrow. So, we're doing live stream tomorrow. I'm gonna schedule it in a minute, but got to do it every live stream. So thanks to our Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing. If it weren't for you, we couldn't do a lot of what we do. So thank you, Helge, for being a true supporter. And you can check us out at Patreon, patreon.com/3dmakeit. Also, in addition to that, if you are wondering how to catch up with us in general, you can catch us at www.3dmakeit.ca. But that's it for me. I'm good. I'm gonna go get some snacks with my wife. We got some fish to look at. It'll be great. So you guys are awesome, and I will see probably some of you tomorrow. Look for the video. Should be uploaded very, very soon.